The planet Karth did not welcome visitors. From space it looked brown and gray, covered with dust storms that moved like slow oceans. Lightning flashed inside the clouds. Mountains were sharp and broken like teeth. There were no blue seas or green forests that traders liked to see, only rock, sand, and dark craters. Ships that passed near it always kept their distance. Across the galaxy, pilots called it a Deathworld. Gravity was heavy, almost twice the standard pull. The air was thick with strange spores. Small cuts could turn into infections. Animals grew large and violent. Even the insects bit hard enough to draw blood. Most species could not stand on the surface without support suits. Humans could. That was why the mining colony existed. Near a long canyon filled with rare crystal ore, a small group of metal buildings stood together like frightened animals. Thick walls, low roofs, windshields, towers with old guns. Pipes that carried water and air from underground filters. The colony looked ugly, but it was strong. Dust storms screamed around it day and night. Inside the walls, people moved with slow, steady steps, as if the heavy gravity was normal. To them, it was. Early in the morning, before the second sun rose fully, Mira walked out of the main shelter with a toolbox in her hand. She was 17. Thin, dark hair tied back. Plain gray clothes. Nothing about her looked special. She did not talk much. She did not laugh loudly like the other workers. She simply worked. The wind pushed hard against her body, but she leaned forward and kept walking. To someone from another world, every step here would feel like carrying a heavy pack. To Mira, it felt normal. She crossed the yard and reached the drill tower. The machine had stopped in the night. One of the joints had cracked. 2 grown men stood beside it, arguing. "It's jammed again," one said. "We'll need the lift." "No lift," the other answered. "Power is low." She climbed the side ladder fast and easy. The men watched her go up like she weighed nothing. At the top, she kicked the metal plate twice to clear the dust. Then she opened the joint housing. The broken part was thick and heavy. One of the men below shouted, "Careful, don't drop it." She lifted it with both hands and set it aside like it was only a brick. The men looked at each other but said nothing. Everyone in the colony knew Mira was strong. They just did not talk about it much. On Karth, everyone had to be strong. The first sun rose higher. Orange light spread across the canyon. Long shadows moved across the ground. Far above, something bright flashed in the sky. Mira noticed it first. She stopped tightening a bolt and looked up. A small white line burned through the clouds. A ship. Soon the siren on the wall began to howl. Visitors. Work stopped. People gathered near the gate. Ships did not come often, maybe once every few months. They brought supplies, tools, medicine, and sometimes news from other systems. The children were excited. The older workers were careful. Visitors usually meant trouble. The ship came down slowly, engines glowing blue. It was large and smooth, shaped like a curved blade, clean metal. No scratches. Very different from the rough human buildings. It hovered for a moment, pushing dust away in all directions, then landed on the flat pad outside the gate. The air shook. Mira stood with her father near the wall. Her father was tall and broad, with tired eyes and rough hands. Years of mining had bent his back a little, but he still carried himself like a strong man. "Traders," he said quietly. Mira nodded. The gate opened halfway. A small group went out to meet the ship leader. After a few minutes, figures walked down the ship ramp. They were not human. They were taller and thinner, with long arms and narrow faces. Their skin was pale blue under the light. Their eyes were large and dark, protected by clear lenses. They wore light armor suits with glowing lines. They moved lightly, almost floating. The gravity here pressed on them hard. Mira could see it in the way their legs shook slightly. One of the aliens muttered something and adjusted his suit. Another slipped a little in the dust. Some of the human workers smiled quietly. Off-worlders always looked weak here. The aliens looked around with open disgust. One of them covered his mask. "Air quality low," he said in broken trade language. Another replied, "This place is worse than reports." Behind them, cargo drones floated down, carrying boxes. At the front walked a larger alien with dark markings on his armor. He held himself proudly, like a commander. His voice came through a translator device, flat and cold. "We take crystal shipment. You receive supplies. Work faster this cycle." "Not a request. An order." The colony leader kept his face calm. "We will do our best." More guards came down the ramp. One of them laughed loudly when he saw two humans struggling to carry a crate. He walked over and kicked the crate aside just to show his strength. The humans stepped back. Mira watched from a distance. The guard was young, maybe the same age as her. His armor was newer. His movements were sharp and full of energy. He looked around like everything bored him. Then he shoved one of the workers for no reason. "Ah!" The worker fell hard into the dirt. Some aliens laughed. Mira's father took a step forward, but Mira lightly touched his arm. He stopped. "Not worth it," he said quietly. She said nothing. Her eyes stayed on the young guard. The guard noticed her staring. For a second, their eyes met. He smirked. He walked closer, up close. He was very tall, at least a head taller than her. Thin but long, his suit motors hummed softly to help him move in the heavy gravity. He looked down at her like she was a small animal. "You?" his translator buzzed.
"Worker, move." She was already standing to the side.
Still, he bumped her shoulder on purpose when he passed. It felt like being hit by a stick. She did not react. He stopped and looked back, maybe waiting for anger or fear. There was nothing on her face. Just calm. Just calm. He frowned, confused, then walked away. The day became busy. Crates moved, tools traded, boxes checked. The aliens ordered people around like servants. Many humans kept their heads down. They needed the medicine and parts the ship brought, but the mood felt heavy. Late afternoon, the sky darkened suddenly. The second sun disappeared behind thick clouds. Wind began to rise. Storm. Everyone on Karth knew that sound. Long, low thunder that never stopped. "Seal the doors!" someone shouted. The aliens looked nervous. "Storm level?" one asked. "High," answered a human. "Very high." Dust walls formed on the horizon, tall as mountains, the air filled with small rocks and sand. The first blast hit the colony like a wave. Metal walls shook. The aliens rushed toward their ship, but the leader stopped them. Too dangerous to launch. They had to stay inside. For the first time, they were trapped on Karth. Inside the main hall, lights flickered. Wind screamed outside like an angry beast. The building creaked. Some of the aliens huddled together, whispering. One of them asked, "Does this happen often?" A human replied, "Every week." Islands followed. Then the outer alarm started flashing red. Something hit the fence. Not the storm. Something else. then another. Mira stood up immediately. Her father grabbed a rifle from the wall. Animals, he said. The storm drove predators crazy. They attack anything that smelled alive. Another crash, metal bending. A guard shouted, "North wall breach." Panic spread among the aliens. Their weapons were made for clean battlefields, not this chaos. Mira moved toward the exit without speaking. The young alien guard from before was near the door. His hands shook slightly. "Stay inside," he ordered her. Outside, the wind almost knocked him down. Beyond the fence, shapes moved in the dust. Huge shadows. 4 legs. Thick bodies. One creature slammed into the gate, roaring. Its mouth was full of jagged teeth. The alien guard froze. Mira picked up a heavy metal pole from the ground. She waited, calm. The creature broke through the half-bent gate and jumped forward. She stepped to the side and struck its head with one clean hit. The sound cracked like stone. The animal fell and did not move again. Another rushed in. She hit again. Then again, each movement simple. No wasted energy. The alien guard stared. This small, quiet human moved like she had done this 100 times. Around them, other humans fought with tools and old guns. The storm howled. But slowly the animals stopped coming. After a long time, the yard was still. Bodies lay half buried in dust. Mira dropped the pole and walked back inside like nothing happened. The alien guard remained standing outside, staring at the dead beasts. His breathing was fast. He looked at the girl walking away, calm as ever. For the first time, doubt entered his mind. Maybe the stories about Deathworld humans were not stories. Maybe they were warnings. Inside, Mira washed the dust from her hands. She sat quietly near the wall. People talked loudly about the fight. She said nothing. Across the room, the young guard kept looking at her. Not with laughter now, with something else. Something sharp, something angry. He did not like how small she looked. He did not like how easily she survived. He did not like how she made him feel weak. His hands tightened into fists. Tomorrow, he decided, he would deal with her. He would show everyone that she was nothing. And Mira, sitting calm and silent under the shaking lights, had no idea that she had just become his target. The next morning, the sky of Karth was gray and heavy. The storm had passed, but the wind still carried dust and the smell of burned plants from the rocks. The colony was quiet. Everyone moved carefully, checking walls, repairing broken gates, and dragging heavy crates back into place. Mira walked among them, carrying tools and a coil of wire. Her dark hair was still dusty from yesterday. Her gray clothes were torn in small places from the fight with the predators. She did not complain. She simply moved from task to task, faster than anyone else. The alien traders from the ship were awake now. They wore light armor and moved awkwardly, their steps slow under Karth's heavy gravity. Some of them stumbled in the dust while trying to carry boxes. Mira watched quietly. She did not rush to help, but her eyes followed them like a calm shadow. One of the aliens, taller than the others, whispered something to his companion. Mira could not understand the words, but she understood the tone. They were mocking humans. A young alien guard, the same one who had stared at her after the predator attack, walked toward her. His armor hummed faintly. He carried a small metal rod for a weapon. His eyes, behind the lenses, were sharp. When he reached her, he pushed her shoulder lightly, just enough to make her stumble. Mira did not move. She stood still. The alien frowned and pushed again, harder this time. Mira blinked slowly and did not react. Around them, Other aliens laughed at what they thought was human weakness. Mira's calm face did not give them what they wanted: fear, anger, or words. Some humans nearby saw the interaction. They whispered to each other, "She doesn't even blink. I've never seen anyone stand like that." Mira's father watched from a distance. He shook his head slightly, knowing that the young guard would learn something very dangerous soon. After the mockery, the aliens moved to the mining tunnels. They ordered the humans to carry more crates faster. Machines could lift some of the weight, but the aliens wanted efficiency. The humans, used to Karth's gravity, moved quickly. To the aliens, every human step seemed effortless. Their eyes widened with disbelief and irritation. The young guard who had pushed Mira now looked around nervously. His companion muttered, "These humans, they are stronger than reports." The young guard ignored him and muttered something under his breath. His pride hurt. Mira entered the tunnel last. The air was cooler and smelled of stone and minerals. Crystals in the walls glowed faintly under the lights. Mira touched them briefly, checking their quality, then moved to help an older worker lift a crate. Her hands were firm and fast. The crate moved as if it were weightless. Other humans watched quietly. The aliens noticed again, whispering among themselves. Suddenly, the tunnel lights flickered. Sparks flew. The machinery jammed. The heavy crate the aliens were moving suddenly slid and almost fell on one of the workers. Chaos followed. The aliens panicked. They were not used to operating in Karth's tunnels without full power. Mira moved immediately. She lifted the crate with ease and set it aside. Then she guided the other humans to safety, pointing where to step and which paths were stable. She even lifted one injured alien off the ground when it tripped over a cable. The young alien guard from before watched, frozen. He had expected her to be weak, scared, or at least clumsy. Instead, she was calm, precise, and stronger than him in this environment. Fear began to creep into his chest. The other aliens murmured among themselves. One of them, a medic named Luro, whispered, "Deathworld humans. They survive everything: poison, broken bones, storms, predators. They are not weak." The young guard's face turned red with anger. He refused to believe it. Luro shrugged and walked away. Mira returned the crate to the wall and checked the machinery. She worked quickly, repairing the jam with a piece of wire and a metal clip. The humans around her followed her instructions without speaking. Mira did not need to raise her voice. Her calm movements gave everyone confidence. The aliens were silent. The young guard's hands tightened around his rod. He wanted to act, but he felt powerless. Later, outside, the aliens gathered in the dust, talking among themselves. The young guard's pride was hurt more with every word Mira had not spoken, every crate she had moved, every injured worker she had saved. "She is just a girl," he said quietly to himself. "Nothing." But his voice lacked conviction. Meanwhile, Mira went to check the perimeter walls. The storm had weakened some of the fences, and she inspected each section carefully. She found one bent beam and another fence wire loose. She fixed them efficiently, using nothing more than simple tools. Her father appeared behind her, carrying heavy reinforcement bars. "You do too much," he said quietly. Mira smiled faintly and did not answer. Words were unnecessary. The afternoon sun began to fade, but Karth's sky never became truly light. Clouds of dust hung low. Mira continued her work, repairing walls, checking machines, and guiding younger miners. The aliens observed her from a distance, their pride wounded and curiosity growing. At one point, the young guard approached her again, this time with a more aggressive stance. He shoved a crate in front of her path. "Move faster," he barked through the translator. Mira stepped aside calmly and lifted the crate with one hand. The metal bent slightly under her grip, but she did not falter. She placed it exactly where it belonged. He stared. His jaw tightened. His embarrassment turned to anger. He muttered insults under his breath, but Mira ignored them. She never shouted. She never fought back with words. That silence became heavier than any weapon. Other aliens watched, unsure how to act. A few began to suspect what Luro had whispered. Humans from Deathworlds were not easy to break. Later, while the aliens were distracted checking the ore quality, Mira moved through the shadows of the tunnel entrances. She had learned every corner of the mining area since childhood. She knew which rocks were loose, which walls could hide people, and which paths were safest during storms. Her calmness became almost like a weapon. She could move silently while carrying twice her weight. Meanwhile, the young guard watched her from the open yard. He was restless. His anger grew with every action she took. Every move she made that was calm and effective made him feel smaller. The other aliens whispered again about human strength, but he ignored them. He wanted to prove her weak, and he would try. As night fell, the colony settled into a tense silence. Humans repaired tools, aliens checked cargo, and the wind howled outside. Mira checked the walls one last time before heading back. She found several fence sections weakened by yesterday's storm. She repaired them with wire and metal rods. Her movements were quiet and precise, almost like dancing. The other aliens noticed his tense stance. They whispered, "She is just one girl." But even they were no longer sure. Mira's father called her to eat, but she finished her work first. She did not rush, did not complain, and did not speak more than necessary. Her calmness annoyed the young god. He wanted her to panic, to fear, to react. She did not. He clenched his fists. Tomorrow, he thought, I will make her react. Later, Mira walked quietly through the camp. She helped younger workers move equipment without speaking. She guided injured miners. She even carried a small crate up a steep slope, using her strength and balance. The aliens watched, silent. They were learning something uncomfortable. Humans from Karth were dangerous, not weak. The young guard returned to his ship at night. He could not sleep. He replayed every action Mira had taken, every crate she had lifted, every injured alien she had carried, every predator she had fought. He had expected a timid human, afraid of storms and animals. Instead, he had seen calm, strength, and control. He clenched his fists again and whispered to himself, "Tomorrow I will break her." But in the shadows, Mira was already preparing. She did not train with weapons, but she studied the paths, checked the walls, and reinforced the weak spots. She moved silently through the camp at night, carrying tools and simple weapons. Every step was careful, precise. She was ready for anything. The other humans watched her quietly, inspired by her calm. Some of the aliens whispered to each other again, but none of them could approach her safely. Her presence alone was enough to make the young guard doubt himself. And somewhere in the corner of the camp, Mira's calm eyes reflected the flickering lights of the lamps. She had seen him stare. She knew he would try something soon, but she did not fear. Not yet. She simply waited. She had patience, and patience on a death world could be more dangerous than any weapon. The next morning, Karth's sky was pale orange, thick with dust that dimmed the sun. The colony was alive with noise. Crates rolled, tools clanged, and human voices shouted directions. Mira moved calmly through it all, carrying a metal bar to reinforce a weak section of the wall. Her movements were steady, sure, and precise. Other workers paused for a moment to watch her, admiring the ease with which she lifted heavy tools and climbed the scaffolding. The young alien guard Rek watched her from a distance. He had spent the night restless, thinking about yesterday's events. He felt humiliated in front of the other aliens because Mira had saved injured crew members, repaired machines, and carried massive crates without effort. Pride and anger burned inside him. He needed to show everyone that humans were weak. Rek approached the colony leader and spoke in the translator device. "I challenge the human girl. Let us see her strength openly." The leader, cautious and neutral, raised an eyebrow but allowed it. Some aliens laughed softly, thinking the display would be entertaining. The human workers glanced nervously at Mira, wondering what was coming. Mira heard the announcement but did not look up. She continued her work calmly, adjusting a metal brace on the wall. The workers whispered among themselves, some trying to encourage her, others worried she might be forced into something dangerous. Mira's calmness unsettled Rek more than any weapon could. The challenge was set near the cargo yard. The aliens brought a large metal crate, heavier than any human could normally carry. Rek lifted it with ease using his suit's motor assistance. He spun it in the air and set it down dramatically, laughing loudly. The other aliens cheered. Mira walked forward slowly. She did not rush. She bent her knees, gripped the crate with both hands, and lifted it. No machines, no motors, just her strength. The metal groaned under the weight, but she moved it with steady, precise motions. The ground beneath her boots cracked slightly. Silence fell over the yard. The aliens did not cheer. Rek's face went pale under his mask. He had expected her to struggle, maybe drop the crate, or even stumble. Instead, she stood tall, holding it effortlessly for a moment, then placed it exactly where it needed to go. Some humans clapped quietly. Others stared in awe. The aliens whispered to each other.
"Impossible," one said. "A human?" Luro, the medic, nodded.
"Deathworld humans are built for this. Karth shapes them." Humiliation turned to anger. He shoved Mira's shoulder hard, testing her reaction. She did not move, not a step. Her eyes met his, calm and unwavering. The other aliens looked between them, unsure how to act. Later, strange tracks were found outside the walls. Large, clawed prints pressed into the soft dust. Mira crouched to examine them. The predators of Karth had come closer to the colony than usual. She warned the guards to strengthen the walls and set traps. Some humans moved to help her. The aliens laughed at the warning, thinking it exaggerated. Rek smirked, believing the real danger was Mira's pride, not the creatures. That night, the predators attacked. They came out of the shadows, huge and feral, their eyes glowing in the weak light of the colony lamps. The alarms blared. Humans grabbed whatever weapons were available. Guns jammed. Cries echoed through the corridors. Mira moved swiftly. She did not panic. She grabbed a sturdy metal pipe and struck the first predator on the head, sending it crashing to the ground. Another lunged at a worker. She rolled under it, stood up, and swung the pipe again. Each strike was efficient, using the predator's weight against itself. The young alien guard tried to shoot, but his weapon jammed. He froze, unsure what to do. Mira moved past him, pushing him aside gently but firmly, and struck another predator before it could attack a human child hiding nearby. She carried one injured worker to safety and returned immediately to fight another creature. Her body moved like a trained soldier, each motion careful and strong. She fought 3 predators at once, her calmness never breaking, her movements precise. The other aliens watched in shock. Their pride and superiority dissolved as they saw a single human girl protect multiple lives while they could barely react. Rek's face twisted with hatred and fear. He had wanted to humiliate her. Instead, he had witnessed something terrifying. Humans, shaped by Deathworlds, were unstoppable when calm and focused. When the predators finally retreated, the yard was littered with broken fences, claw marks, and the bodies of dead beasts. Mira wiped dust from her hands and surveyed the area. No one dared approach her immediately. Her calm presence was stronger than any weapon the aliens had. The next morning, Rek did not speak to anyone. He avoided looking at Mira, but he could not stop noticing her as she moved through the camp, checking walls, helping injured workers, and guiding younger humans. Each action reminded him of his failure yesterday. Some of the aliens began whispering. "She is more than a human." One said, "She is a survivor." "She is something else." Luro nodded quietly, still observing. "Koth does not forgive weakness. Those who survive here become stronger than any alien weapon." Rek, however, refused to believe it. His anger grew into obsession. He decided that if he could not show her as weak, he would personally force her to react. He began watching her closely, noting her movements, trying to find the moment she might falter. Mira, unaware of his thoughts, prepared quietly. She repaired fences weakened by the predators, reinforced traps, and organized the younger workers. Her calm was unshakable. She worked without speaking, without raising her voice, letting her actions speak. As night fell, the camp became tense. Humans rested near fires, exhausted but alive. Aliens checked cargo and equipment. Rek moved through the shadows, waiting for an opportunity. He wanted confrontation, but he would need the perfect moment. Mira moved silently among the tents, checking sleeping workers, adjusting tools, and carrying small crates of food and supplies. She did not hurry. Every step was calculated. Every movement was efficient. Luro observed from a distance. He whispered to another alien, "Be careful. Deathworld humans do not fight like others. They think differently. They survive differently. If you push them, they strike back harder than you expect." Rek's fists clenched. He did not care about warnings. He wanted to dominate her, to prove she was weak. But deep down, doubt gnawed at him. Every action Mira took reinforced the truth. She was not weak. She had survived storms, predators, and exhaustion with calm and skill. The young guard returned to his quarters that night, restless. He replayed every action Mira had taken, every movement, every calm glance. He thought about the crate, the predators, and her silent strength. Anger and pride wrestled in his chest. Tomorrow, he decided, he would force her to react. He would corner her. He would humiliate her publicly. But Mira had already begun preparing quietly. She moved through the shadows, inspected walls, repaired equipment, and trained her body using simple exercises she had learned from survival on Karth. Every motion was controlled, every step precise. She was ready for whatever might come. The humans in the camp watched her quietly, inspired by her calm efficiency. The aliens, however, felt a growing fear they could not name. The girl they thought timid had shown them that humans from Deathworlds were stronger, faster, and more dangerous than they imagined. And in the quiet night, as winds howled outside and the lights flickered across the camp, Mira's eyes reflected the dim glow of the lamps. She had seen Rek watching. She knew he would try to provoke her, but she did not fear. She simply waited. And on Karth, patience could be more powerful than anger, more deadly than any weapon. The next morning, The air on Karth was heavy and still. The storm from the previous day had passed, leaving dust and debris scattered across the camp. Mira moved quietly through the yard, checking fences and reinforcing weak spots. She carried small tools in her hands, and her movements were smooth and precise. Every step she took showed confidence, strength, and control. Humans around her watched silently, some helping, others simply observing. Rek, the young alien guard, had spent the night planning. His pride was bruised. The events of the last 2 days had humiliated him. A small human girl had handled heavy crates, fought predators, and moved with strength he could not match. He wanted revenge. He wanted to show everyone that humans were not as formidable as she seemed. He started spreading rumors among the aliens and some humans. He said Mira had stolen supplies from the storage rooms, hiding them for herself. Some humans hesitated, unsure what to believe. Others ignored him. Mira's father heard the whispers and frowned. He called Mira aside. "Do not respond," he said quietly. "Stay calm. Do not give them reason." Mira nodded, her dark eyes steady. She did not speak, but she listened carefully. Rek grew more impatient. He decided to corner her personally. He wanted her reaction.
Ew.
He wanted her to lose her calm in front of everyone. The other aliens watched, curious and amused, thinking the confrontation would be entertaining. They did not understand Mira, and they would soon learn why patience on Karth was dangerous. Mira moved through the storage area, checking equipment and supplies. She knew every corner, every shelf, every crate. She walked lightly, carrying a small box, unaware that Rek followed her silently. He waited for a moment when no one else was near, then stepped out from behind a shelf. "Human," he said, his voice rough through the translator. "You should know your place." Mira stopped and looked at him calmly. She did not move her hands. She did not raise her voice. Her dark eyes met his. He pushed her shoulder. She did not react. He shoved again, harder this time. Mira's face remained still. The other aliens, who had followed quietly, watched in confusion. They expected her to panic, to fight back, to shout. She did none of these things. Rek's anger grew. He grabbed a small rod from his belt, a simple weapon, and struck near her feet. Mira stepped back lightly, avoiding it with ease. Her calm movements irritated him more. His face twisted with frustration. He could not understand how someone so small could be so controlled. Meanwhile, Luro, the alien medic, observed from a distance. He whispered to another alien, "Deathworld humans are different. They do not fight like you expect. They endure. They survive, and when pushed, they respond with precision and power." Rek ignored the warning. He wanted to dominate Mira. He wanted her to react. He pressed closer, shoving and threatening her. Mira did not flinch. She did not speak. She simply watched him, calculating. Later, Mira overheard a conversation among the alien leaders. They were planning to move humans into more dangerous mining zones, thinking they could be forced to work faster and harder. Mira realized her people were not safe. She decided to prepare quietly. She repaired tools, checked escape routes, and trained herself in simple exercises she had learned from living on Karth. Every movement was controlled, every step careful. She did not show fear. The camp remained tense. Humans whispered among themselves, unsure of what Rek would do next. Aliens watched, still underestimating her. Mira moved silently, carrying tools, adjusting fences, and observing the colony. Her presence alone made some aliens uneasy. As night fell, the shadows in the camp grew long. Rek followed Mira through a dark corridor, waiting for a moment to act. He wanted to corner her completely, to force her into a reaction. The humans and aliens nearby did not notice him. Mira, however, was aware. She knew he was there. She did not panic. She moved silently, preparing for whatever might come. The camp slept lightly. The wind whispered through the broken walls and fences. Dust drifted across the ground. Mira checked each entrance, reinforcing weak points. Her movements were precise, practiced, and calm. She did not hurry, but she was ready. Rek crept closer, thinking she would be frightened once trapped. He imagined her struggling, calling for help, or faltering. But Mira had grown up on Karth. She had survived storms, predators, and exhaustion. She was not afraid of a single alien, no matter how strong he thought he was. She moved toward a weak section of the wall, carrying a long metal rod. She adjusted it, checking each bolt and connection. Her focus was absolute. Rek stepped closer, hiding in the shadows. Suddenly, Mira heard a faint sound, a movement behind her. She turned slightly, her eyes calm but alert. Rek froze, realizing she had noticed him without turning fully. Her awareness unnerved him. He did not expect such perception. She said nothing. She did not attack. She simply watched. Her calmness was a silent warning. Rek's anger surged, but so did his fear. He could feel it in himself, a growing doubt he could not name. Mira continued her work as if nothing had happened. She adjusted the metal rod, tightened bolts, and checked the weak wall section again. Every action was controlled, every step deliberate. Rek could not move. He wanted to act, but he realized he was in her presence, and she had already seen him. Any sudden move could give her the advantage. He clenched his fists, angry and frustrated, his pride wounded. Meanwhile, the humans nearby whispered among themselves, "She has seen him. She is calm. She is ready." Mira's father watched from a distance. He knew what might happen. He trusted his daughter's strength and patience. She had survived storms, predators, and hostile aliens before. She was ready for Rek's provocation. The young guard waited, trapped by his own overconfidence and her quiet strength. He watched her every movement, searching for a mistake that would never come. Mira moved slowly, checking the walls, reinforcing tools, and preparing silently. The camp around them remained quiet, except for the wind outside and the faint creaks of the buildings. Mira's calm presence made the other aliens uneasy. They whispered among themselves, unsure of what to do. Bluro shook his head, whispering again, "They cannot understand."
Humans from Deathworlds think differently. They survive differently.
Patience is their weapon. Rekko's anger grew. He pressed forward mentally, planning the moment he would corner her. But Mira had already anticipated the attack. She had prepared every weak spot, reinforced every tool, and mapped the area in her mind. She was ready. The night stretched on. Mira moved through the dark corridors, checking sleeping humans, adjusting traps, and reinforcing fences. Her movements were precise, careful, and silent. She carried simple tools and weapons, ready for anything. Rek followed, still determined to provoke her. He imagined the confrontation in his mind, hoping she would lose her calm. But every step Mira took reminded him of his failure. She had survived everything Karth threw at her. She had fought predators, lifted heavy loads, and remained calm under pressure. Finally, Mira reached a central corridor where weak walls and storage crates converged. She reinforced the area with rods and wire. Every motion was exact, leaving no weakness. Rek approached, thinking he could trap her. But Mira had already anticipated every move. She did not panic. She did not flee. She did not speak. The humans nearby watched quietly, inspired by her calmness and precision. The aliens felt unease and fear they could not name. The young guard clenched his fists, realizing for the first time that she was not just strong. She was prepared, aware, and patient. Mira turned slightly, noticing Rek's presence fully. Her calm eyes met his, silent but clear. She had seen him. She knew he intended to provoke her. She remained still, letting the tension build. And in that quiet moment, the camp seemed to hold its breath. Outside, the wind whispered through the broken walls. Dust drifted across the yard. Mira's calmness and patience became more powerful than any weapon the aliens had. Rek's anger and frustration boiled, but he could not act. She had already won the first battle by remaining calm, aware, and prepared. And on Koth, patience was more dangerous than any storm, any predator, or any alien pride. The day began with a dull, heavy sky over Koth. Dust hung in the air like a thin fog, and the camp was tense. Mira moved through the colony quietly, carrying a small crate of supplies to the storage area. She was calm as ever, her dark eyes observing everything, her hands steady and strong. Other humans worked alongside her, following her quiet guidance, while the aliens watched from a distance, still unsettled by her presence. The young alien guard, Rek, had been planning all night. His pride had been hurt, and his anger grew daily. Today he would make Mira react. Today he would show everyone that humans were not as strong as they appeared. He watched her silently, waiting for the right moment. The day passed slowly. Humans carried heavy loads, repaired machinery, and reinforced walls. Mira moved calmly from task to task, lifting weights, carrying injured workers, and checking equipment. Every motion was controlled. Hours. She did not speak unnecessarily. She did not rush. Her calm presence made the other humans feel safe, and it made Rek feel increasingly frustrated. In the afternoon, when the majority of workers were busy near the mining tunnels and the aliens were distracted by shipments, Rek made his move. He followed Mira through a narrow corridor near the empty docks. The area was quiet, no humans or other aliens nearby. This was the moment he had been waiting for. He stepped out from behind a crate, blocking her path. "Human," he said through the translator, his voice cold and sharp. "You have been too bold. You will learn your place." He grabbed her arm and shoved her lightly, testing her reaction. Mira did not flinch. She did not speak. She simply looked at him, her eyes steady and calm. Rek's anger flared. He shoved her again, harder this time. Mira remained still, like a rock in the middle of the dust. The alley was narrow, and her calmness made him feel trapped. He wanted her to panic, to push back, to scream. She did none of these things. Then he raised a small shock baton from his belt and struck toward her legs. Mira stepped back lightly, avoiding the strike easily. The metal rod hit the ground with a loud clang. She did not move hastily, nor did she hesitate. She simply assessed the situation, watching his movements carefully. Rek's frustration boiled. "You will respond," he shouted, striking again, aiming for her shoulder this time. Mira moved with fluid precision, dodging the strike and countering with a simple push that unbalanced him slightly. He stumbled, but regained his footing, glaring at her with rage. Her calmness unnerved him more than her strength. He had expected fear, hesitation, or anger. He expected her to react in ways he could control. Instead, she was patient, precise, and aware. Suddenly, Rek lunged toward her, aiming to push her into a stack of crates. Mira shifted slightly, using her momentum to guide him off balance. He fell forward onto the ground, scrambling to regain control. The shock baton fell from his hand. Mira did not attack aggressively. She simply stepped closer, her movements smooth and controlled. She grabbed his wrist gently but firmly, preventing him from rising. Her calm eyes met his. Rek felt a wave of fear and surprise. He had underestimated her. He realized that all this time she had been holding back her strength, conserving it for moments like this. Rek struggled, but Mira's grip was unyielding. Her body was solid, trained, and steady. He tried to call for help, but she twisted his arm slightly, knocking the communicator from his belt. It skidded across the dusty floor. His shouts echoed, but no one was near enough to respond quickly. Mira moved her body behind him, keeping him off balance. She did not shout, did not panic, and did not hesitate. She had calculated every movement, every step. Rek's attempts to strike or grab her failed. She was patient, calm, and deadly in her precision. When he reached for her father, who had run toward the commotion, Mira's focus sharpened. Her father tried to protect her, but Rek struck at him with his free hand. Mira reacted instantly. With a single, fluid motion, she stepped behind Rek, locked her arm around his neck, and applied a precise twist. A sharp crack echoed through the empty docks. Rek collapsed to the ground, unconscious and unmoving. The shock baton and communicator lay beside him. Mira released her grip and stepped back, breathing slowly, calmly, as if nothing unusual had happened. The silence of the docks was heavy. Even the wind seemed to pause. Other aliens began arriving, alerted by the noise. They saw their strongest young guard lying still, and the small human girl standing calm, unshaken, and in complete control. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Some whispered to each other, unsure how to act. None of them dared step closer. Luro, the medic, approached carefully. He examined Rek and shook his head. "Deathworld humans," he said quietly to the other aliens, "are not weak. They are survivors. They endure, they adapt, and if pushed, they strike with deadly precision. Respect is the only way." The other aliens nodded slowly. Their pride and arrogance had been broken. They understood that Karth's humans were not ordinary. They were shaped by storms, predators, and harsh survival. They were calm, patient, and stronger than any alien weapon could account for. The human workers watched quietly, some in awe, some in relief. Mira's father approached and placed a hand on her shoulder. He said nothing. Mira looked at him, nodded slightly, and turned back to the camp. She had done what needed to be done. The events of the day changed everything. The aliens would no longer underestimate the humans. Trade, cooperation, and respect were now necessary. No one would dare challenge Mira again. Even Rek, once proud and cruel, would remember the quiet strength of the Deathworld girl. She had never shouted, never panicked, and never wasted energy. She had waited, observed, and acted with precision. And the colony, alive with dust and wind, had learned a new truth. Calm patience on a Deathworld was more powerful than anger, weapons, or intimidation. Mira returned to her quiet routine, repairing fences, checking supplies, and helping the humans around her. She said little, moved calmly, and kept her strength ready. The aliens gave her space, their whispers filled with respect and awe. The story of the calm Deathworld girl spread quickly through the camp. Traders, guards, and humans spoke quietly about her efficiency, strength, and patience. Even the youngest children in the colony knew that she was someone to watch, someone to respect, and someone who could survive anything Karth threw at her. And Mira, calm and patient as ever, continued her work. The storms would come again. Predators would return. Aliens would visit. But she was ready. She had survived everything so far, and she would continue to do so, quietly, precisely, and calmly. The events of the docks that day would be remembered for a long time. It was a lesson to everyone. Do not underestimate a human from a death world. Calm, patience, and experience could turn even the smallest figure into a force stronger than pride, anger, or fear. Mira stood among the dust and the fading light, her hands steady, her eyes calm, and her mind prepared. She had acted when necessary, but she had never lost herself to anger or fear. On Karth, that made her unstoppable. And somewhere in the quiet night, the winds whispered across the empty docks, carrying the story of a girl who had faced an alien bully and shown the true power of a death world human. No one would forget it. The sky over Karth was dark and heavy as Mira walked through the camp, her steps calm and measured. The wind carried dust across the ground, swirling around the low buildings and battered fences. The aliens had become quiet after yesterday's events. Rek, once proud and arrogant, lay unconscious near the empty docks, a reminder of the strength of Deathworld humans. The other aliens gave her space, their eyes wary, their pride tempered with respect.
Mira did not boast.
She moved through the camp, silently, carrying simple tools and checking weak points along the fences. Every motion was careful, precise, and deliberate. The colony was alive with cautious activity. Humans repaired equipment, reinforced walls, and moved supplies. They worked together efficiently, inspired by Mira's calm leadership. Even those who had doubted her now followed her quietly, trusting her experience and skill. Outside, the wind howled like a living thing, rattling metal and shaking dust into the air. Mira ignored it. She had faced worse storms, fought predators, and survived harsher nights. Nothing here could disturb her focus. Meanwhile, the alien leaders gathered near the ship, discussing the events of the past days. Their translator devices buzzed with anxious voices. Luro, the medic, spoke quietly. Deathworld humans are unlike any other species. They are survivors. If pushed, they strike back with precision. They endure more than you imagine. Respect is the only way to interact with them. The leaders nodded slowly. Pride and arrogance were tempered by necessity. They could no longer treat the humans as weak tools. They had seen what a single girl could do, and the lesson had been learned in blood and dust. Mira moved toward the central yard, checking fences and repairing broken wires. She carried a long metal rod reinforcing a section that had weakened under the last storm. Her dark eyes scanned the area, noting every shadow, every potential threat. The humans around her moved with confidence, trusting her calm judgment. The aliens kept their distance, whispering among themselves. Even the youngest guards dared not approach her too closely. As she worked, Mira noticed Rek stirring near the docks. He groaned and tried to push himself up. His movements were clumsy, his pride shattered. He struggled to regain composure, but Mira did not approach him immediately. She watched him calmly from a distance. She had no desire to humiliate him further. Her goal was not revenge. It was survival, patience, and the safety of her people. Rek tried to speak through his translator, but Mira ignored him. He waved his hands, shouted, and stomped, but she did not react. Her calm presence was stronger than any argument or threat. The humans around her whispered quietly, impressed by her restraint and focus. The aliens whispered to each other, unsure how to act. The lesson had already been learned. The Deathworld girl did not react with anger or fear. She acted with precision and strength when necessary. Suddenly, a loud alarm rang across the camp. A new ship approached from space, its engines kicking up dust and debris. Humans and aliens alike paused. The new visitors were unknown, and the tension in the camp rose immediately. Mira did not panic. She adjusted a loose fence panel near the wall and scanned the sky. Her calm eyes caught every movement of the incoming ship. The alien leaders rushed to their own ship to meet the newcomers. Luro stayed behind, observing Mira. "She will show them what humans from Karth can do," he whispered. "Ah." Mira heard him but said nothing. She simply continued her preparations, checking walls, reinforcing fences, and making sure every tool was in place. Rek finally managed to stand, unsteady and angry. He glared at Mira, his pride and ego still burning. But he knew he could not challenge her directly. She had proven herself beyond doubt. Her calmness, patience, and strength had shattered his arrogance. He turned away, humiliated, and returned to the alien ship. Mira moved through the camp, checking on the humans. She helped a worker lift a heavy crate, guided two others repairing a fence, and adjusted a small trap near the edge of the colony. Every action was simple, precise, and efficient. She spoke little, but her presence communicated confidence and authority. Humans followed her lead, inspired by her strength and calm judgment. The aliens watched from a distance, still uneasy, whispering to each other. As the new ship landed, Mira observed the crew disembark. They were not hostile, but their movements were careful and curious. They had heard stories, rumors of a human girl from Karth who could fight predators, lift heavy loads, and survive storms with calm precision. Mira did not seek attention. She did not speak to them immediately. She simply moved through the camp, checking walls and supplies, letting her actions communicate her strength. The alien leaders approached her cautiously. Luro followed behind, nodding respectfully.
"We underestimated humans," one of them admitted through the translator. "We see now the truth."
"Respect and cooperation will be our path." Mira nodded slightly but did not speak. Words were not necessary. Her calm presence, her careful actions, and her proven strength spoke louder than any argument. In the yard, humans worked quietly, inspired by Mira. They lifted heavy crates, repaired fences, and guided younger workers. The camp moved with efficiency and precision, each person following the silent guidance of the girl who had faced predators, storms, and hostile aliens without fear. Night fell over the colony. The wind carried dust across the low buildings, but Mira moved through it like a shadow, checking every fence, every weak point, every tool. She was ready for anything. Rek would not challenge her again, and the alien leaders had learned to respect her. But threats from predators or the harsh environment remained. Mira's calm vigilance ensured the safety of her people. As she paused to rest near the central yard, Mira's dark eyes scanned the horizon. She saw the lights of the new ship moving slowly, observing the camp. She did not fear them. She simply noted their positions and continued her work. Her patience and calm had become her greatest weapons. The humans around her whispered quietly, admiring her strength and composure. Even the aliens kept their distance, their respect growing. Mira moved among them, adjusting tools, reinforcing fences, and ensuring the safety of every worker. Every motion was precise, efficient, and calm. She never rushed. She never panicked. She never acted without thought. The events of the past days had changed the colony. Humans no longer feared the alien traders. The aliens no longer underestimated the humans. Rek had learned his lesson, and the new visitors had witnessed the quiet strength of a Deathworld human. The camp operated with new efficiency, guided by the calm, patient, and powerful presence of Mira. As the night deepened, Mira finally rested briefly near a fence, her hands dusty, her clothes torn slightly from the day's work. She looked across the camp at her people, at the aliens keeping their distance, and at the horizon where new stars began to appear. She had survived storms, predators, and hostile aliens. She had defended her people without raising her voice, without panicking, and without unnecessary violence. Her calmness had been stronger than any weapon. Her patience had been more dangerous than pride or anger. On Karth, that was the greatest strength the human could possess. The wind whispered across the colony, carrying dust and sand, and Mira stood slowly, moving among her people once more. She checked tools, reinforced walls, and observed the camp, calm and vigilant. The story of the girl who faced an alien bully, who survived predators and storms, and who acted with calm strength would spread far beyond the colony, and somewhere, far above Karth, other travelers would hear the whispers. A human girl from a death world walks calmly through storms and danger. She is patient, she is strong, and she is deadly when necessary. The colony slept, the aliens respected, and the humans were inspired. Mira continued her quiet watch, knowing that Karth would always test its people, but also knowing that calm, patience, and strength would always prevail. And so, the legend of the Deathworld girl continued. She had never raised her voice, never lost her calm, and had survived where others would have failed. The storms would come again, predators would return, aliens would challenge them. But Mira was ready. She was patient, she was strong, and she was always calm. On Karth, that made her unstoppable.